Peter Singer and Jim Mason wrote in their book, The Ethics of What We Eat, Why Our Food Choices Matter, quote, "If a widespread cultural practice is wrong, we should try to change it." For centuries, people have been challenging problems they see, such as governmental and cultural issues. It can be scary to go against the norm, but it's often necessary. One example of this is people standing up for vegetarian ethics. I myself am a vegetarian, and I've done a lot of research about this topic, so I'm very passionate about it. Problems with human health, the environment, and animal welfare that are partially caused by eating meat in the meat industry can be remedied by eating less meat. Today I'm going to discuss these problems that I mentioned and give details about a solution, which is eating less meat, that can hopefully help these problems. So I'm going to begin by talking about these problems. Meat can cause weight and disease-related problems for humans, and weight is affected by eating meat. Neil Barnard, Susan Levin, and Yoko Yokoyama wrote in their article, "A Systematic Review and Meta-Analysis of Changes in Body Weight in Clinical Trials of Vegetarian Diets," that averages in vegetarian weight loss intervention studies show that switching from a non-vegetarian diet to a vegetarian diet often led to averages in weight losses of 7.5 to 10.1 pounds. So this shows that if you want to lose some weight, eating less meat could help you out. There's also an increased risk of chronic diseases associated with eating meat. Vegetarians often consume less fat overall compared to meat eaters, and this leads to less vascular disease, according to Nico Rizzo, Karen DeSalvo-Siegel, Joan Sabate, and Gary Fraser in Nutrient Profiles of Vegetarian and Non-Vegetarian Dietary Patterns. Non-vegetarians average 78.1 grams of fat, and vegetarians average 66.1 grams of fat. In the same study, it says that a lower incidence of chronic diseases is like some chronic diseases like some cancers and heart disease is correlated with a higher amount of fiber in one's diet. And non-vegetarians average 30.4 grams of fiber in this diet, and vegetarians average 46.7 grams of fiber. So this leads to the conclusion that vegetarians may be at a lower risk of some chronic diseases. So as you can see, meat can cause some issues for human health, and now I'm going to show why it's not great for the environment either. The meat industry causes problems for the environment in ways related to greenhouse gases and water use. Greenhouse gases are bad for the environment because they affect climate change and global warming, and two greenhouse gases that are especially related to the meat industry are carbon dioxide and methane. In the relative greenhouse gas impacts of realistic dietary choices, M. Berners-Lee, C. Houlihan, H. Samick, and C. Hewitt found that fresh meat is a category that's associated with the most greenhouse gases released. And this is shown in my visual aid. I don't know if this is working. Okay. Well, the longer the bar, the more greenhouse gases associated with the category. And there's a bunch of categories of food here, and right here is fresh meat. So considering the carbon dioxide from fossil fuels that are used in animal food production and the methane that's reduced from, the animals release, it makes sense that fresh meat is associated with a lot of greenhouse gases. And producing meat also uses a large amount of water, which is bad for the environment. So cows need the most water for production compared to other animals, and Singer and Mason said that it's estimated that in the US, 792,000 gallons of water are used to produce just 1,000-pound cow. And they also found that it takes 12 times more water to produce hamburger beef than it takes to produce an equal amount of calories in bread. So producing meat isn't great for the environment, and it's also not great for animals. Some people are shocked to hear how many animals are just actually affected by the meat industry. And according to Namit Arora and On Eating Animals, about 1 million birds and other mammals are killed for food every hour in the US. And also, he says that 1,000 cows are killed daily in just one US slaughterhouse. And also, some customary farm practices are cruel, even though they happen all the time. He says, Aurora says, it's normal for farm animals to be fed inappropriate and damaging diets, and it's also normal for the beaks of birds, the tails of pigs, and the horns of cows removed without any anesthesia. In addition to these cruel practices, the living conditions are also not great. Singer and Mason says that pregnant breeding sows are kept in steel crates so small that they can't even turn around. And in a chicken shed, the chicken excrement just piles up without being cleaned for sometimes years, and the ammonia in the excrement can cause blindness, respiratory diseases, and sores and blisters on these birds' bodies. So I've discussed problems with human health, the environment, and animal welfare, and now I'm going to provide a solution to these problems. So eating less meat can help resolve some of these problems. If more people ate less meat in general, these problems would happen less frequently. So some people are wary of eating less meat, but when you take it gradually, it's easy to reduce your consumption of meat. So depending on how much meat you eat right now, you could try a meatless day per week or several meatless days per week. If this is too much, you could try a meatless meal on occasion, or even reducing how much meat you eat in one meal it helps. Trying this with others instead of just doing it by yourself can often be effective, and I recommend this technique. And it's worthwhile to reduce your consumption of meat, even if you're not completely vegetarian, because it still makes a difference. And you don't have to worry about nutrient deficiencies when you're trying to eat less meat, because according to Harvard Women's Health Watch, common nutrients of concern like protein, calcium, iron, vitamin B12 are all available without eating meat. So common protein sources, they say, are eggs, milk, and beans. Calcium can be found in cheese, broccoli, and almonds. Iron is in eggs, kale, and spinach, and vitamin B12 is in eggs, milk, and fortified cereals. You also don't have to miss the taste and texture of meat when you switch to eating less meat, because according to David Fader and Flavorful Fakeouts, there are several substitutes that exist for meat products that don't have the associated impacts that regular meat has. Some of these alternatives contain soy, mushrooms, eggplant, and grains. And arguably the best part of the solution that's eating less meat is that you'll be making more ethical decisions. So it feels satisfying and rewarding to know that you're not contributing to many of the problems that exist right now. So to conclude, I've said that eating meat causes problems for human health, the environment, and animal welfare. And I've said the solution, which is eating less meat, is nutritionally healthy, it has substitutes, and it's more ethical. So even if I've laid out all this evidence, change might not happen, people might not switch their diets. People are often really defensive of the way they were raised and their diets and what they believe, but continuing to present evidence like this and just encouraging people to try it for themselves can lead to more changes in diets. We need to remember that this isn't just about ourselves, it's about the planet and other beings as well. So keeping in mind of the big picture can help our choices be more sensible and rational.